Hey everybody, welcome back. Larry here again to share with you some of my brewing equipment. Today it's about my pumps, brewing pumps, right? I had these kind of pulled out of storage where I've been storing them around my garage and house, doing a little bit of inventory, clean up and the like of my brew space in my house in general. And I thought it'd be a good time to share with you my opinions and my thoughts as to how I came about getting all of these and what I like about one and the other and its features and all. Figured it would be a useful video. I don't see a lot of these kind of videos out there. I mean, there's some videos, one versus one, like I've even done this. I've done comparison videos between the Chugger and the RipTides and the spike flow into itself and Anvil XP. So I probably just rattled them all off. I got basically 4 brands of pumps, but 5 in total because the RipTides have different heads on them here. Thought I'd just go over what I got in case any of this interests you. Now, how did I get 5 brew pumps, right? It's like, well, I actually have 6. 6, the original ones being these guns right here. My pump, manual pump. Back in the day when I was doing gravity brewing with mash tun coolers and the like, right? I remember you had to use gravity. You had to have your hot liquor tank above your mash tun above your kettle, and you use gravity and hoses to like drip everything through. Well, I did that for years and came to be a point where I was wanting to upgrade my 5-gallon cooler mash system brew house setup into a 10-gallon system, and 10 gallons of liquid or mash grains for all that. It's kind of heavy, even for someone as young as me at the time. I'm much older now. No way, right? So I started getting into pumps at around that time. I upgraded to my 10-gallon system, and I initially bought a Chugger pump, right? So let's start with the Chugger pump. The Chugger pump is decent, right? It was one of the original homebrew pumps back in the market, back in the day before some of these were even around. It was a standby brew pump. You go online, even before the days of YouTube and others, right? Where you had to read blogs and articles and vlogs and things of people or homebrew magazines and such for all this information back then, right? And they're really big on the Chugger and a March brand pump too. So I went and got the Chugger. Now the Chugger's pretty decent. It's got a pretty good gallon per minute and head stat. 7 gallons per minute flow, 18-foot head pressure. Seemed all right. It worked great. My beer line, my water, everything just worked great. Few downsides to it though, made me really unhappy with it. And one of the things that made me unhappy with it was its inability to prime, right? It didn't have a prime any way to get rid of the air in the head so the flow would go and not cavitate, right? So you had to, back in the day, you had to disconnect your hoses and try to rock the liquid, try to get liquid to backflow into the thing and bleed out the air through the actual hoses. It could be a huge pain. It could take several efforts to do. I've done this on my live streams. You all probably, if you are a longtime viewer, have seen this before live, right? So frustrating. Another thing about it, it didn't have any built-in valve to control the flow rate. I mean, you turn this thing, it's full bore on, right? And so you had to purchase an extra valve. You had to attach it to the outlet. You can throttle it down that way. And I did that for years, and that works. It's just an extra cost. And then there was the issue with the inability to clean the head easily. This thing is fastened with several screws all around it, so to take it apart, to clean it, it was kind of a cumbersome process, time-consuming, tedious, right? To clean it, put it all back together again, and I've had this thing clogged during brew days, maybe due to too much trub or hot matter maybe in the line. I've done this on a live stream as well. If you want to go back and take a look at some of these live streams, we had to perform surgery on our Chugger pump in the middle of a mash recirculation, I think it was once upon a time. At least one that I'm aware of still by memory. It still scars me to this day. Also, a downside to the Chugger pump was that it's noisy. It's super loud. I mean, not is it normally loud when it runs normally, but when it starts to act up and get fickle, it can squawk and squeal and grind. It just all kinds of noises. And for not to be nitpicky about that, but if you're just transferring beer or liquid or work from one system to another and you're done in 5 or 10 minutes, you can cope with that. But if you have a system like this Brew Easy Compact or any other almost-in-one system out there, you're going to want to recirculate during the mash, right? And that could go for a half hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how long your mashes go and what kind of beer you're making. And that can really be, it can really drive you nuts. I mean, it just, your mind just, from the noise. So, unhappy with that, right? So I went out and got me a better pump, one that was quieter. So then I went with the Blichmann RipTide, and for one, it was super quiet. The RipTide came with a removable head, awesome, easy to clean, easy to unclog if necessary, and also has a nice priming valve on it to get the air, to bleed the air out of the lines, as well as a fine linear flow valve that you can control the flow built into the head and included in the cost of the thing. So, although it was more money, the fact that I didn't have to buy any more stainless steel fittings, ball valve and the like to fit on here, that was really nice. A variation of that is another RipTide pump. Now this one comes with the tri-clamp fittings on it, but it's the same thing. It's got the same priming pump, the same tri-clamp removable head. It's super quiet as well. It's just they have different ways to connect them to your system, right? So this is a tri-clamp system. This would use this device. My traditional Brew Easy back here would use the other one. Now I could rewire things and come up with one common convention, but what's the fun in having a standardized way of brewing, right? Anyway, I digress. So then that worked great. I was happy with them. And then Spike Brewing came out with their Spike Flow a couple years ago now. I think maybe more. Time flies. It looks a lot like the RipTide, but it is a different head design, different color too. It's kind of cool. And it comes with very much of the same kind of things. It's got a tri-clamp removable head. They changed the head configuration a little bit to optimize the flow. Now this has got the maximum flow rate out of all of these. I think it's like 9 gallons per minute. I think the head is like 21.9 feet or almost 22 feet, right? And so it's super powerful. It's got little tines that are supposed to destroy and tear up trube, hot matter and the like, so it doesn't clog. It comes with a little port here to dribble and bleed. So it's got a bleed valve here that will let the air bleed out, and you can put like a little cup under here to catch the drippings, whereas unfortunately, I didn't mention this before, but with the RipTide, the downside to that is that you pull the priming pin and the liquid comes up finally and sprays everywhere. So you gotta bear in mind, it's a little cleaner to use the Spike Flow for that purpose. But one of the downsides to the Spike Flow is that it does not come with its own built-in flow valve. So here you also have to now attach an outlet valve of some kind of ball valve of sorts, just like you do for other pumps like my Chugger, right? And that was an extra expense, right? So you pay for this thing, then you gotta buy a valve for it to control the flow right. But it is cleaner to bleed than the RipTides, and it's also super quiet. I did a video on this a while back, walking through some of these features. I also did a follow-up video on a noise issue that was due to some assembly tolerance that you can easily fix. So if you're having the occasional squawking with this thing, go look at my channel for a fix for the Spike Flow pump to make that noise go away. It was just a spacing issue when you assemble things. It was not a big deal to fix that. Now, finally, about maybe more than a year ago now or so, Anvil Brewing, which is, I guess, part of Blichmann Engineering, just they sell a different line of home brewing products. They came out with this Anvil XP brew pump, which is a pump upgrade to their current standard Anvil pump, I think they call it, for their Anvil Foundry system. So I got this sent to me, and I've been using this with the Compact Brew Easy. I've been using this with I used it with the Anvil Foundry off to the side here. I've used it with something else too. I can't remember what now. But anyway, what's great about the Anvil XP is mainly the cost, right? Because it's got the same general design as the RipTide and the Spike Flow in that it's got a removable tri-clamp head. Again, easy to clean. It's got the configurable flow to go in the center and out the top, just like the spike flow, to maximize its flow rate for itself. It's got the little pull ring for the bleed, but it's also got the little drip hole, just like the spike flow does. So that's pretty interesting. It's kind of like a hybrid between these two systems. The thing that it doesn't have is a flow control valve. So that's going to be another add-on expense, right? You would do something like this. You would take a ball valve, you put it on there, and I'm not going to screw this down all the way because this is a live video, but yeah, so there you go. Now you have your flow control. But this stainless steel ball valves are not cheap, so take that into consideration. But it's got the cheapest price tag out of all of these, and it does the job. I mean, I've not been dissatisfied with the Anvil Spike. I'm sorry, the Anvil XP. It's been great. I think the flow rate's 6 gallons per minute, and the head pressure is, what did I write down on here? 10 feet. So it's not as great as the other ones. So it's not really good for lifting too high. But as you can see here, if you're brewing on a tabletop system like this, you're looking at 2.5, 3 feet lift. No big deal, right? So the Anvil XP, really good option. It's also the quietest, literally the quietest of all of these. I was stunned because I thought a smaller pump would work a little extra hard, right? And it might be, but whatever they're doing, this thing is super quiet. I can't even hear it when I have it running. So it's incredible. I think the only thing left to go over is the power consumption, which I'm about to test real soon here. I got myself a little wattage meter. I'm going to plug each of these pumps in here. I'm going to run it through the systems, each and every one of these one at a time. I'm going to check the power usage, and I'm going to check the flow rate myself with each of these. Now with flow rates and everything, it's largely subjective, right? I mean, these flow rates, a lot of them are theoretical right at the outlet to the pumps, and any length of hose will slow down that flow rate, just like a draft system, right? Which is why you need to balance your draft system with a longer line, right? For the pressure in your beer, so when it comes out, it doesn't come flying out like foam. Right, it's the same idea. There's friction in the line. So I have about a foot here, probably about maybe 3 feet here. So not a huge challenge. It's got a lift of about 2 feet, right? So it won't be a huge test of the lifting capacity, but I will get some numbers, some real life numbers here in just a moment for you. Probably be a couple of hours for me, right? So let's get started. There we go. All right, so that was 1 minute. So let's see what we got in the front. A little hard to see, but it's just a little shy of, almost a little over 3 3/4 gallons, a little shy. 3.75 minus 3.75. All right, well, this isn't scientific necessarily with the accuracy of my measurement methods and techniques and equipment, but it looks to be about 5 gallons per minute, not the rated 7, using my system as I have it set up here. All right, that's the wattage for the Chugger pump. It's pulling 1.5 amps. Can't check the head on this because I really don't want to do that experiment. All right, so the Chugger pump's done. 5 gallons per minute. About 109 watts, 1.5 amps, and it's noisy. Actually, let's get some of that noise. Okay, now let's switch over and do one of the Blichmann RipTide, shall we? Okay, so get the timer going here. Clock, a timer for 1 minute. There we go. Got the timer going. Let's see the very fast flow rate. Let's check out the amps. It's 0.53 amps and 61 watts. All right, there goes the timer. Oh, all the way down to 3.5 from 8 3/4. So it turns out I got about 5.25 gallon per minute rate. A little slightly faster than the Chugger, even though they were rated for the same. So still close enough for our home brewing purposes, right? So now on to the spike flow. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, that thing's really going. It's got a pretty good stream. Now we gotta check the wattage for the spike flow, and then the amps, 0.77 for the spike flow. Okay, so what did that teach us here? Where did that leave us off? Looks like we're down, oh, there we go. Right down to a little between 2.5 and 2 3/4, so I'll say 2 5/8. So let's record that. All right, so spike flow, a little over 6 gallons per minute, 6 1/8 gallons per minute, according to my quick test. The fastest so far. And I measured the wattage and amperage as well. I'll put them all in a spreadsheet for everyone to see. Okay, now on to the Anvil XP, my newest pump. Plug into my foot pedal so I can free up my hands for. So the one downside about the Anvil XP, the cord is only, looks like about 4 feet long, or so. It's not the longest. So just keep that in mind. Might need an extension cord. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. So you can see the flow rate isn't the fastest, but it's still plenty. I mean, that's the flow rate for the XP right there. I mean, it's slower, not bad. And let me do the amps are 0.22 and the watts are 27. All right, here we go. Take a look at what we got left. Oh, all right, we're just a tad under 5 3/4. So that was about 3 gallons per minute, not the 6 that they advertised. Now this is with my configuration, my hoses and my fittings and everything. You might get different mileage with different setup, but that's what I got. One thing I didn't check with the XP pump is how quiet it is. So let me turn it on a little bit and again for a bit, and I'll put the phone by it. Pretty darn quiet, guys. Pretty darn quiet. All right, so there you go. I'm gonna put the numbers on the screen for you. The math, I'll do the math for you. They're stated, or their marketing or specifications on their website say this. I show you what I measured with what I have. I take it for what it's worth. But in summary, I don't think you can go wrong with any one of these pumps. Anvil is a great value. Lower cost, but you need to buy a valve. The flow rate is acceptable for most, although it's got the slowest flow rate of all of these. Truth be told, how many times have you seen me or yourself, if you are already doing this, have to throttle down your flow valve on your pump all the way down, right? Especially during mashing, when you recirculate, you got it kind of really turned down to a small trickle as it is. So you're really not missing much when it comes to mash recirculation. The only thing you might have a problem with the Anvil XP is height. So if you're going up a long height from your pump to where you're going to fill, maybe there's an issue there. If you don't mind the smaller flow rate when you go to transfer it, say from your kettle to your fermenter, a little bit more patience, save a little money there. Pretty good little pump, honestly, as a compromise option. The spike flow is definitely the fastest. Still relatively quiet. The Blichmann RipTide was somewhere in between the two extremes, pretty close to the spike, and far better than the Anvil XP. And it was also very quiet. But the big pro for the RipTide is that it comes with that built-in valve. Keep that in mind. So when you don't run the math on your total cost of ownership of such a product, right? So there you have it. I made a watery mess of my garage for you. I hope you enjoy this. Please give me that thumbs up if you did. Any questions or any specifics you want to ask about any of these pumps, let me know in the comments section. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.